All right, we are ready to get started with our first group advising session of the fall 2020 semester. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We have an excellent turnout, 118. Hopefully we caught all of you right before the semester started. My name's Krista, and we will get started right away now. All right, the plan for today is to first do a little bit of housekeeping, talk about who we are, what our office actually does, and then we're going to dive into depth about the different aspects of holistic admissions for health professional school, including things such as academics, experiential components, core competencies, and then share some of the official and UConn resources with you. Please note there's some of our basic information at the bottom there. You can go on our website and see our full contact information. We do have an Instagram account as well, and normally our office is based on the 4th floor of the Rowe building. However, all of our staff are currently working remotely. So before we begin, I also would like to mention that once you have viewed this session and or watched the recording of this session on our website in its entirety, you are able to make a one-on-one appointment with an advisor from our office. So we also like to make sure everyone is aware that our Office of Pre-Professional Advising is one of the 6 subunits of the overall Enrichment Programs Department. This department composes of other programs such as the Honors Program, Individualized Major Program, National Scholarships Fellowships, as well as Undergraduate Research and University Scholar Program. These programs are open to any undergraduate to pursue and enrich their undergraduate experience. The only one that initially requires invitation as an incoming freshman is the Honors Program. However, rising sophomores and rising juniors are also eligible to apply to that program. So please check out the website if you'd like more information about these. We work very closely with staff from all of the units. Just to give an example of one of our students who has really maximized her opportunities throughout the department, Akshaya here is a STEM scholar in the Honors Program. She also has an individualized major in health policy and social medicine. She has pursued undergraduate research through that office, including the health research program at UConn Health. She's won a number of really important scholarships and is currently studying abroad at the University of Edinburgh in medical anthropology, and she's a current cycle applicant to medical school. So this is just one illustration of the ways that you can really enrich your undergraduate experience at UConn through enrichment programs. So now a little bit about who we are. Erin is our Director of Pre-Professional Advising. She joined us earlier this summer. We're very excited to have her on board. On the pre-med side of things, we have Dr. Sanford, who we're joined by today. He was Assistant Dean of Admissions at UConn Med for over 30 years. And we're very, very lucky to have him now on the undergraduate end of things. Dr. Arlene Albert is a retired biochemistry professor from UConn. She also worked at a medical school in New York for several years. Kalila is a PhD student in educational technology, and especially with a focus on creativity and social justice in education. She's just joining our team currently, and we're very excited to have her on board. On the pre-dental side of things, Dr. Thomas Abbott is the pre-dental advisor for all students. He is also an instructor of Biology 1107 on campus, one of the Introduction to Biology courses that most, if not all, pre-health professional students take unless they brought some kind of credit in. Myself, I am Krista Rogers. I'm a program coordinator in the department, and I also coordinate our annual composite letter process each year, which you'll hear about in a moment. Sue Ruggiero is another staff member, and she works very closely with our post-bac population of students. And just to clarify, Kalila is in educational psychology. So one of the first questions that we always get asked at the outset is, what do I have to do to become pre-medical or pre-dental at UConn? And the simple answer is there is no application or formal sign-up. All you have to do is email us, get on our pre-med, pre-dent emailing list, and that's really our official, unofficial way of knowing that you are on a pre-health professional track. Information is provided via the listserv. We do send out weekly newsletters, typically once per week during the semester, In the summer, they're a bit more sporadic when events and other things are available. In terms of advising, we are available to students right from their first week of college through after graduation. And this is something we really want to stress because not all health professional students decide or even know that they want to go this route right off the bat. And so alumni are always welcome to reach out to us for both general advising and for any of our workshops and programs. In terms of what kinds of advising, you're always welcome to join one of these group sessions and also request a one-on-one appointment once you have done that. Our typical workshop lineup throughout the year includes the biggest session called the Application Orientation in February, and that's followed by more specific workshops geared towards elements of the application process, including personal statements, secondary applications, how to select schools to apply to, and then typically in the late summer, early fall, we offer Navigating the Healthcare Admissions Interview webinars. In fact, we just held one of those last month. You can see the recording on our website. From about early February through the end of the summer, our office is largely focused on something called Composite, aka Committee Letters of Recommendation. These are very comprehensive letters of recommendation that our advisors write on an applicant's behalf, and the medical and dental schools really value them for just the depth and insight into all aspects, all holistic aspects of an applicant's background. Dr. Sanford, would you like to introduce the concept of the composite letter a little bit?
Sure. First, just a welcome to everybody. Hope you've had an enjoyable and relaxing summer and you're anxious to dive back into your coursework in the fall. It's really our delight and pleasure to work with each of you as you think through and plan and then execute a plan to prepare yourself for professional school. So the composite letter, dates back many years here. As Krista mentioned, I served in medical admissions dean at the School of Medicine in Farmington for many, many years. And through that experience, really came to very fully appreciate the importance of a more comprehensive portrait letter of a candidate that simply captures everything about you. The strength of individual letters, which are also important to cultivate with a few faculty and key people that will become your referees that will write for you, they're both important. The individual letters provide what we refer to as sort of snapshots of your excellence in whatever domain they're in. Could be a science class, could be a non-science class, could be clinical activity, could be some service involvement, could have been a summer job or something related to church service, anything in your history that conveys a real sense of caring for other people in community service that schools really value heavily. Schools also value heavily just your development of your competencies, which Krista will highlight as we move on in this discussion. But the composite really takes a sort of full account of these and presents as full a picture as we can to best support you as a product of our program at the University of Connecticut and give us an indication of your readiness to move ahead to the next level. So I think I'll stop there, Krista.
Great, thank you very much. In order to request a one-on-one appointment, if you're pre-medical, you can do that through our website under the Forms tab. If you're pre-dental, please note that you can request your own appointment through nexus.uconn.edu with Dr. Thomas Abbott. His fall advising hours are not quite up on the website yet, so please be checking a couple days prior to the beginning of the semester. Also, please note that all appointments for this semester will be conducted virtually via WebEx. And normally we would distribute some goodies such as pens or stress bowls or highlighters at these sessions. Since we're not able to do that today, please be sure to swing by our office when we are hopefully back open in the spring. These slides were taken from a different presentation, but I do think they're a great little intro to a couple of the myths and facts that we often talk about in pre-professional advising. So we're going to transition now into a topic, a discussion about the academic metrics of an application. Now first, please note that these two definitions of holistic admissions come from the Association of American Medical Colleges and the American Dental Education Association. And essentially both are saying that applicants are not just viewed based on their GPAs or test scores alone, but the whole scope of experiences and personal attributes go into admissions decisions. We're going to dive into each of these three components now. And this is just another visualization, how you can see that each of them builds on each other in terms of different skills and types of knowledge. Next, another very common question we get right at the outset is, what major should I be if I'm pre-med or pre-dent? And the simple answer is, you can be any major you'd like to be, and it should be something you're passionate about. You can talk about excitedly at a future interview, and something you're going to really excel in. And of course, you do have to demonstrate the prerequisite coursework along the way and achieve success in the hard sciences. Now, certain majors are certainly easier to do this with than others. Just a short snapshot of appointment data from 2 years ago showed that a good number and the majority of our pre-health professional students were in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. And among those, the biology type majors are the most common because the prerequisite courses do overlap very nicely. Some of the other majors that we commonly see among pre-med and pre-dent students, however, are listed at the bottom there, and this is certainly not exclusive. I do like to mention that in 2018, our applicant who was accepted to Stanford Med was actually an English major, which I think is very exciting. And then last year, the president of the Pre-Dental Society was actually a history major, and he's now a student at UConn Dental. In addition, I would highlight the Individualized Major Program. One of their really bursting, exciting sub-pockets of majors have been related to health disparities and global health in general as well. And that's something you can do either as your sole major or as a complement to a traditional major. Next, let's take a closer look at coursework. And so first, I'd like to highlight these three big terms at the top. And I'm going to pull this up on our website so it's a little bit bigger. Dr. Sanford, would you like to take it away?
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Krista. So when admissions committees sit around the table and they start looking at applications and having dialogue about applicants, one of the things they focus on is, your proof of readiness from an academic point of view. So what sort of things do they consider? One, they are going to take a look at your overall grade record and performance, and they certainly want to be convinced that your success there will translate to success in their particular programs. So they do look at these three basic categories and a fourth one that I'll just mention, and we'll talk a bit more later. But when they look at your academic record, they're looking at breadth, which means the extent to which you've really engaged in a pretty broad liberal arts education. When you read a lot of websites for professional schools, one of the basic things they say is they're looking for a student with a good, broad liberal arts education. So it doesn't mean you have to sample everything, but you want to at least think about your undergraduate experience in a very broad sense and think about the goals you wish to achieve over your undergraduate degree. And this sort of takes a practical plan of you meet with your academic advisor, and you need to select so many courses from each category of things to be able to fulfill the degree requirements. But rather than think about it just from the standpoint of fulfilling whatever degree requirements you have, for example, very often I'll hear students say, "Oh, I got to take this, and oh yeah, I got to take these general ed classes. What are those?" So I think schools are looking for you to explore and really show an interest in a breadth of coursework. And that's part of the choice you have. It's part of the goals that you have of your undergraduate experience. The second key feature there is depth. Committees, as they sit around talking about an applicant's record, if they see somebody that's taken basically all intro classes and never really gone into any depth in any particular area, they just don't see that as particularly, that you're particularly enthusiastic or kind of charged up about any particular area of study. So it's good as you move ahead through your coursework, you'll discover some classes maybe you didn't think you had much interest in, but suddenly it really sort of hits a chord with you and you decide to follow up with another couple of classes in that particular discipline or a related discipline. And again, this is sort of one of the goals and objectives of an undergraduate degree. You want to think pretty broadly about what you want to try to accomplish during this time, which involves, some additional depth beyond some intro course level as well. So this is often a sort of 2,000 or 3,000 level class in a related discipline. There's a lot of students that do double majors. There's a lot that do a major and a minor. There's students that do individualized majors. And just throughout their college experience, sort of hit on a couple of different areas that walking in the door on the first day, they just had no clue that this was going to be something they were excited about and excited to learn about. So keep an open mind and, plan on a program that's going to allow you to enhance your candidacy across some different disciplines. The third key thing Krista's highlighted there is rigor of coursework. So there are a number of instances where you have a choice of taking a bit more challenging course that still meets the basic prerequisites or still meets the kind of standards that individual departments want to see, but does require a heftier commitment on your part and a bit more challenging and engaging curriculum. This might well be true in virtually any discipline that you select, and the ones that sort of pop up all the time with us, physics, you can do algebra physics, you can do physics with calculus, you can, do various levels of different classes for honors credit or this or that or the other thing that might be a possibility for you. Sometimes there are 5 credit versus 4 credit selections. What you want to be a bit cautious of is doing anything of an abridged fashion. And an example of this is organic chemistry that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So in terms of rigor, you'll have some choices along the way that are basically there to challenge yourself a bit. So, you don't have to decide on every one of those right away. But as these opportunities come up to go ahead to schedule your program for the semester for the next year, there's certainly things you want to entertain. Chris has put up the basic core prerequisites for all the students that are heading into the health profession. So you're basically going to see there a year of basic biology and chemistry and organic chemistry and physics as what's been the historic core for students going into dentistry and medicine for years and years and years. What's been added to that recently is biochemistry. Many medical schools don't teach biochemistry as a class anymore. They basically expect you to have those fundamentals as you walk in the door. So that's typically a 5th or 6th semester class that a student's taking with us. Physics for many students ends up being a 3rd year class in the 5th and 6th semester. For others that are in some other majors, physics actually occurs a little bit earlier in their curriculum. Additionally, things like psychiatry, psychology, as well as sociology and statistics have emerged as courses that schools like to see that you take. Some stop short of making it a full-fledged recommendation, but it's a good idea to incorporate that in one, because those are subjects that are now tested on the MCAT or are valuable in terms of preparation for the MCAT. A standard year of English is another element that you're going to see or a standard that schools expect. We can go into a little bit talking about AP and ECE, and but the bottom line there is every school has its own sort of different take on that, and some schools are a little finicky about what they'll take. So you do have to exercise a little bit of caution, and that's where I think we can become valuable to you as you move ahead to plan, which classes to take. So I think I'll stop there, and maybe if there are questions, we'll answer questions.
All right, thank you very much. And just to answer someone's question, yes, we will be taking some questions periodically through this presentation. If I feel that we are getting a bit bogged down, however, I will ask to hold all questions to the end. So one more slide about academics before we do take some academic-focused questions. Many of you likely have questions about bringing in credit. And so we'll draw two distinctions between AP credit and ECE credit, which is offered through many high schools throughout Connecticut. When it comes to ECE credit, generally speaking, we recommend bringing it in if you received a B+ or above, because this grade will be factored into your UConn undergraduate GPA. Dr. Sanford, would you like to talk a little bit about AP credit and some considerations?
Yeah, so as Kristen noted, in general, ECE is going to count okay. And a lot of students just go ahead and choose to bring it in and proceed with the classes. Some students do decide, even though they may have done very well with ECE, that they really want to be assured that their foundation preparation in basic chemistry and biology is meets the standard that the school presents for such classes. So just, I can tell you from experience, there have been a lot of students that have come in with ECE credits of, B+, even A- that end up taking the first year biology class and they struggle to get a B. So it is a choice that students have to exercise. So you want to be very careful about sort of how much you bring in. But in terms of the AP situation, again, AP is sort of taught a little bit differently. Those classes and honors and others you take that lead students to take the AP examinations, there's no way to really sort of judge their rigor other than through the exam. So, we tend to put a pretty high bar there. And, my own experience with this, I think you ought to at least have, be looking at a 5 in your AP. You have, a 700 plus on the subject exam related to that area. It has to be taken in the last 2 years, and it really has to have a pretty strong, or you have to have a pretty strong lab experience through your high school program work you took. So, just be a little careful and cautious about how much AP you bring in. I know families and students are often very anxious to bring in as many credits as you can to be able to proceed or save a semester or save a year. And you want to be a little careful about that because we just don't know in a lot of instances how rigorous that preparation has really been. And the medical school, dental school admissions committees have the sort of same issues. If you start to look at what all the individual schools have as their policies for accepting AP, you're going to find it pretty much all over the lot. I mean, some schools are going to pretty much accept it without even thinking twice about it. There are many schools that have some stipulations where they will only take one semester AP of general biology or general chemistry or general physics. So here again, I think the sort of thing to do is be sure to connect with us so we can sort of talk you through this. And what we don't want to have happen is a student sort of breeze through thinking all this is going to be fine. And when they, show up to apply, find out that they have to go back and take a class they could have taken easily 2 or 3 years ago. So you don't want to sort of put yourself in a situation where you're really going to be caught short late in the game, just because you weren't aware of circumstances of the individual schools that you were applying to have some limitations. Just as another example, I mean, there are some schools that say, well, we don't care how many AP you have, but we're only going to take 12 credits of AP or 16, whatever it might be, and they don't even care which area it's in, but they'll only grant it up through that amount of credits. So even, say you have already AP credits for a year of calculus, a year of biology, a year of chemistry, a year of physics, you might think you're good to go and not have to do any of that stuff in college. And when you start to fill out your applications, you discover that, oh my gosh, I don't have enough credits in these particular disciplines to even apply to a school. So it's just, worth connecting with us, staying current, so we can, best help and advise you about these things. In some instances, if you really have an exceptional preparation AP, you really feel it's a waste of time to go back to do these classes over, you do want to move ahead and challenge yourself with the most challenging courses in that particular discipline. It's often the case where schools will accept additional upper division work that you do in the discipline. So this is pretty common in you can imagine all the sort of variations about this that happen. So I think the key thing is just to sort of stay connected with us. Okay.
Thank you. I have been addressing some questions that have been popping up through the chat box. We did get a couple in the Q&A as well. So first, regarding AP English specifically. So if you brought in AP English or some kind of AP or ECE English credit, we will count that as one semester, and the schools are they want to see you have taken at least one semester on a college campus. So we do recommend taking one more semester. It could be anything from the English course catalog. That would definitely play it safest. So something you look really excited about, or you can be strategic and try to overlap it with your Content Area 1 Gen Ed. In addition, another question, you do not need to have taken the SAT 2 as long as you received a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam in order to receive the credit for that. All right, I will give you a few moments now. Please add any more questions to the Q&A box that are related to academics strictly. ECE English would be the same. We still recommend taking one course on the UConn campus in addition to that. More advanced biology courses would be things such as genetics, cell biology, or microbiology, and they can be found on the coursework chart on our website we displayed a moment ago. If you are a biology type major, then generally speaking, you're fine bringing in the full year of AP credit and moving on to some more advanced biology courses. In addition, if you feel like you do want any kind of a refresher, many students will accept the credit for 1108 and then retake 1107 on campus because the content of that course is most critical as a prerequisite for upper division courses and for the MCAT. Regarding AP Stats, that would be up to you. If you feel confident in it, you receive the credit for it. You don't need to necessarily take that at UConn unless you wanted to move on to something more upper division to enhance your record as well. And finally, just to clarify about English again, someone is asking whether W courses would count for that. That is a little bit of a gray area because at UConn, you can have a W course in technically any department. And by English, the schools really want to see that you've taken a humanities-based course with either a strong literature or writing component. So we do recommend you take something specifically from English just to play it as safe as possible. Regardless of how much AP English credit you had in high school or ECE credit or both, we still would always recommend taking one course on the college campus. Okay. All right, I believe we're going to move on now, and we will circle back to questions at the end. So just to put this on your radar, some of the special course offerings that Dr. Sanford specifically offers are usually open to upperclassmen students, including courses such as Patient and the Healer, in which you learn how to take patient medical histories. And in fact, the final for that course is a mock interview with a patient. In addition, he often teaches courses such as Intro to Physical Examination and Health of Communities in the spring. All three of these courses do require permission numbers. Seats are limited, so it's best to be in touch with our office earlier rather than later around course registration period. Also, it's good to note that there is an EMT course actually offered on campus, and that is through the Allied Health Sciences Department. The catalog number is AH4092. It's a partnership they have with Hartford Hospital. If you're interested in that, you can email the Allied Health Sciences Department, or the coordinator for that is Dr. Susan Gregoire. Finally, it's good to note that our office does offer an MCAT review course on campus every spring. We used to offer a DAT course as well. Unfortunately, that is no longer offered. However, the MCAT course is spread over 11 weeks in the spring. It typically meets for 4 hours on Saturdays and is not intended to be teaching content. So it's more focused on how content is actually used on the MCAT and test-taking strategies for that.
If I may, Krista, I just wanted to make a statement.
Absolutely.
So it's a tremendous pleasure to be able to connect with students at the university through an academic course or two. And it's one of the ways that we really get to know you as individuals. It's very important in your program over the course of 3 or 4 years to really connect with and establish relationships with people. And the one important message we want to give you here on this call is to, it's a larger university setting. Some of your classes are quite large, and it's often a bit hard to really get to know the instructors very well. And would just urge you, to set that as a goal for yourself. Some students are very outgoing, very gregarious, and easily and quickly establish rapport with others, and others are just not as comfortable and outgoing. It's something others sometimes struggle a little bit. But we just wanted to give the message that it is important to develop and cultivate some relationships with people. Krista earlier showed Akshaya's photo and talked about sort of things that she got involved with. I had the great pleasure of having her in 2 of the classes. The ones related to her interest in global health and community health issues, where there's a big focus on disparities in healthcare in terms of access and delivery and quality, that she was very interested in, very well schooled in, was a tremendous contributor to the class. And in terms of the other classes we do with the Patient and Healer and Physical Exam, most of this students that are thinking about healthcare careers really don't experience till they get into medical school or dental school. But over the years, was working in admissions at the medical school, it was a common sort of criticism of students coming from many undergraduate schools that, yeah, they did great related to the academic components and the science components of their application, but they really hadn't thought much about those are the interpersonal components that make them successful in medical school and make them successful in their profession. So these classes were introduced as a way of, for you as undergraduates, to really kind of get a taste of this a bit early and to have you think more about this dimension of your preparation and the competencies expected there. So again, it's a great pleasure to be able to connect with many, many students who are interested in these things. And it just helps us to get to know you a little better and and help you along the way. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And I think it is worth noting as well that typically when we do these sessions in person, we do like to have everyone introduce themselves at the beginning, say what their major is, where they're from. And that's not possible today, unfortunately, but it will really give you a sense of just the diversity of majors and interests as well that are found amongst the health professional students at UConn. All right, so now we are ready to transition into the next aspect of holistic admissions we wanted to talk about, the more experiential things, which Dr. Sanford has just mentioned as well. So we're going to break these into three major areas, beginning with clinical experiences. Now, when we talk about clinical experience or medically related experience, we like to break that into two big areas. On the one hand, shadowing, on the other hand, direct patient care experience. And it is really beneficial. The schools like to see that you've cultivated something of both. And I like to think of them as two sides of the same coin because they both provide you with different insights and experiences. Shadowing is usually the logical place to start. And if you have not shadowed a physician before, this would be a great next step sometime when you're home on vacation or whenever you're available. And I should mention as well, though, that in the current environment, shadowing is a bit difficult to obtain. A lot of places are not offering it at the moment. But shadowing a doctor will provide you with insight into the profession, and it also signals to the schools your motivation for this career and that you're going to be committed to this pathway. Based on who we see are most successful applicants to health professional schools, we do recommend about 50 to 75 hours of shadowing total, and ideally split between a couple different specialties of medicine to give you some diverse perspectives. You might realize that a specialty you thought you liked is actually not your cup of tea, or vice versa. You might fall in love with something you just never considered before. We do have a shadowing guide on our website. We will stick that in one of our upcoming email lists as well. But it is usually easiest to arrange this if you do have any family or friend connections in healthcare. And or a really great starting place is to reach out to your own primary care physician or dentist, and because you have an established relationship with them. And usually once you have a foot in the door somewhere, that can lead to more networking elsewhere. Now, the other side of that coin, direct patient care experience, refers to anything where you're taking more of an active role. So you either have one-on-one interaction with patients and or you're the one administering the healthcare. We do recommend a minimum of 100 hours for this. Although please note, if any of you are considering a career as a physician assistant, those programs typically have much higher entrance requirements. It's anywhere from a few hundred hours to a few thousand. So we have listed here some examples of various types of direct patient care experiences. Dr. Sanford, would you like to provide a little more insight into those?
Sure. Our general recommendation is to try to shadow 3 different people in 3 different disciplines. So roughly about 25 hours each. And what is shadowing? Shadowing is sort of a passive, laid-back opportunity to just observe and see how an individual conducts their own requirements and tasks and responsibilities in their job, in their employment. So it gives you a glimpse into how people think, the sort of methodology they follow, the routines that they follow, but more than that, the sort of sensitivities they display as they interact with all the different patients they're going to see. And one of the things you want to think about is you're going to see patients from newborns up to elderly, aging, folks from all different walks of life, from all different religious backgrounds, ethnicity backgrounds, economic backgrounds, and you've got to have a kind of sixth sense to be able to connect with people right away. And shadowing at least gives you a little bit of glimpse on how well the people you're observing do this, and it often sort of gives you a sense of, gee, I'm really good at this, or this is something I really need to work on. But, shadowing at least gives you a sense and understanding of, what the roles and responsibilities are that you undertake in this role. And you'll see some nuances across different disciplines that you have some experience with. It used to be that the main thing was just shadowing that folks focused on as the sort of clinical requirements. And there wasn't a lot of attention to much direct patient contact. And that's been a change in recent years where the medical schools are really expecting to see that you've actually spent some time dialoguing with and assisting and helping patients in whatever small ways that you can, just so you've had the hands-on experience of that dialogue and dealing with patients and patients' needs in whatever small way that you can help with that. Students get often interested in doing certificate programs, so they will get an EMT license or a CNA license, a medical assistant license. A lot of people do scribing these days. All of these can help to acquaint you with a patient care setting, and it allows you to really test your own sort of personal interest in it. A lot of folks really have a very idealized view of what medicine is, and you're going to be waking up and saving lives every day and making tremendous advancements for people. And one of the things you find out is that happens for sure, but often it's a bit more routine, and sometimes you can't help. And the best that you can do is comfort, and that is satisfying in and of itself. So, the whole clinical experiential, as described here, think of it as this kind of two-pronged thing that you do, that in both are extremely valuable. One note of caution, a lot of students come in already having had considerable shadowing as high school students, and they just don't feel they have to do it anymore. A lot of the medical schools really do expect to see you at least continue with that to some degree as a college student. We've got a lot of cases where students did shadowing internships as part of their high school program, and they figure they'd done that, been there, don't have to do any more of that. But it's important to kind of stay connected there and do some of it as a college student as well. You just bring a different knowledge base, a different level of understanding, a different level of interest often, that is just going to be different about the college experience compared to a high school experience that many of you maybe have already had. The other thing that Krista noted is that different areas do require a lot more of this than others, physician assistant being one, where they often have hundreds and sometimes thousands of hours that are required. And it's very hard to fit all that in as part of your undergraduate education. So it's very common in certain areas for a student to really need to work and put themselves in that environment more or less full time. So it's often, PA students, for example, that have gotten a glimpse of that during their undergraduate, but really need to commit a year or two in terms of a gap, what they call gap years or enrichment years, to cultivate enough time and experience to be convinced this is the right thing for you. And I think that's the important thing to emphasize here. Why are you doing this? You're not doing it because you will need to check off the box that you sort of qualify to apply. You're doing it because you're really asking yourself an important question about what are you good at? What do you feel fulfilled in doing? And is it met by the kind of environment that you're in and what you're observing? So as I say, sometimes students have a very idealistic view that they're going to go in and, have a very upbeat experience every day. And again, for any career, for any area, there's a fair amount of repetition. There are a fair amount of things that you encounter that, may not be as fulfilling as you think they would be initially. So you just need to get in and get some experience and be sure is what we'd like to emphasize.
Thank you. And just to highlight a few of these, we did get the question as well, is volunteering appropriate for obtaining direct patient care experience? Absolutely. If you are in some kind of a position where you have that one-on-one interaction with patients and or you're the one providing the healthcare, and it is through a form of volunteer work, absolutely. And you do want to cultivate a strong service orientation regardless. That's something we'll talk about in a little while. I'd just like to highlight one program. It's called the Yukon Health Leaders Program. And this is about a year old now. It's a program at Yukon Health Center in Farmington, Connecticut. And it does provide a mix of different types of clinical experiences, along with helping undergraduates develop their leadership skills. So they offer application, I think the application cycle is 3 times per year, and the next deadline will be in November. So we will certainly distribute information about that via our listserv once they're opening it up again. Now, moving on to Research Independent Scholarship. I would like Dr. Sanford to introduce this, and then I will point out some helpful resources online, as well as highlight a program. But also, Dr. Sanford, could I ask first, is it necessary to do research in any particular area?
So thanks, Krista. Yeah, we talked earlier about sort of academic programs and things that schools looked at to try to distinguish among applicants in terms of breadth, depth, and rigor of coursework. The fourth dimension they look at is independent scholarship. So it is important to do and become familiar with the research process, no matter really what you do. Interestingly, it's not typically identified as a formal requirement to be able to apply to medical schools, but it's something that the schools and the individual committee members and interviewers really always look to see if you've had some experience and just what it is. A lot of students have the impression they have to do a bench project in chemistry, or physics or biology to be able to qualify. You really want to have some exposure to research that you're interested in, and it does not necessarily have to be a bench or lab-based project. There's a lot of students that get involved in more clinical projects where they're sort of assessing the efficacy of different treatment plans. A lot of sociological or psychology-oriented project activities. So whether it's one of the hard sciences or social science, or even if you're an English major or a history major, and you're exploring some area in those disciplines as your history and independent study or scholarly project, those are valued by schools, and they want to see that you've had that experience, what you've taken away from that experience. It demonstrates a certain amount of curiosity, initiative, follow through. Many of the competencies, as you read through them, I mean, they have research experience written all over them as a way to show evidence of competency. So it's a valuable thing to consider if you're interested in. And I think you want to sort of have an open mind about what you might like to focus on there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a hard science bench project. Certainly, if you're interested in an MD, PhD in one of the basic science areas, you're absolutely going to have to do a bench-related project. If your interests lie in a different area, though, I mean, you want to then explore those areas and do projects related to that. The research components, some of you are probably in the honors program and are intending to do a kind of capstone honors thesis. This typically involves about 3 contiguous semesters of work at the university, but it does have that feature of representing a unique undergraduate experience where you have to come up with a project idea and then follow it through to completion. And, that conveys a lot about you as a person. Other students may not want to do it officially or are not in a program that requires you to do a project, where they'll do a fellowship at a medical school or a hospital during summer, and ongoing projects that, as you move along with your career, you sort of apply for these and look for these kinds of opportunities. So you don't necessarily have to do it within the context of the undergraduate program for degree. You can do it at a number of different places, and sometimes students apply for these. They pay you stipends to participate in them, and so again, keep an open mind. Part of what you're in school to do is sort of follow a unique journey, follow a unique path of things you get excited about. Just keep an open mind about those sort of things. And we have students that do sort of all of the above. There are folks that are involved in doing honors thesis project. They also want to have a fellowship experience at Yale or some other place in the summer, and anxiously and get their sort of ducks in a row to investigate some of these opportunities that they might do as part of a summer. I would say it's important to think about and try to incorporate into your plan. Do some students get into professional school if they don't have any research experience? The answer to that is yes. Yes, they do. But in general, it's something we would say, just be careful, cultivate some relationships with faculty and others, and other junior, senior students who are already in labs and doing their own work are really sort of the best spokespeople about this. So whatever your department where your major is, they have all kinds of mentors and mentor relationship kinds of things that you can work with to get in and observe and sample, and that's how you often get excited about these. And Krista, I know, is going to walk through a bunch of things that the university does as a Research One university, and also at the medical center, that are great opportunities to think about. Go ahead, Krista.
Thank you. And I have been trying to keep up with the questions. Please forgive me if I haven't addressed your question yet. All right, so in terms of when you should begin research, that's one I've been getting a lot. You can begin research as early as your first semester at UConn. Just be aware, though, that some faculty do like to see students have some coursework under their belts first, so it completely depends on the person you'd be looking into working with. But now I would like to point out a couple of resources on the Office of Undergraduate Research's website. Okay. So this is OUR's website, as we call them for short, and please note that they very conveniently offer info sessions called Getting Started in Undergraduate Research. So that would be a great place to tune in, find out more information about them. You can usually hear from current students how they got involved as well. In addition, they do have some great handouts right here on their website. Under the Students tab, you can also find a more comprehensive Getting Started guide, along with exploring opportunities both on campus, off campus. And then one of the things I really love about this is they even have sample email templates that you can refer to when sending emails to faculty you might be interested in working with. In addition to this, the Office of Undergraduate Research, they do offer a variety of funding programs. So a lot of pre-med, pre-dent students, for example, make use of these SURF grants, and that would pay you up to $4,000 to be doing research on one of the campuses at UConn over the summer, if you have an opportunity. In addition, they also offer the Health Research Program, which takes place at UConn Health in Farmington, and it's very exciting because as an undergraduate, you would be placed in a faculty's lab there. We're currently off season for this, but you can check out a sample of the labs right here on their website. The application deadline is typically every year the first week of February. So definitely be tuning in later in the year, checking this website, or follow OUR to make sure you're getting their emails. One way that I personally like to find the names of faculty who might be doing similar things to what you're interested in is to check out the program brochures from this office's annual undergraduate research poster exhibition. So Frontiers is a really big event open to any undergraduate who has been actively pursuing research and gives them an opportunity to present their giant blown up poster of their work and then dialogue with other university members and community members as well. So just as an example, I'm going to pull up one of their past brochures here. And you can get a really good sense of, first of all, you can be doing undergraduate research in any department, and you will see all different schools and colleges represented. And then you can see the sample project titles as well as faculty mentors. So if you keep seeing the same faculty's name for projects that you're interested in, just take a brief note of that and then check out their CV, go on their website, see some of their publications, because they might be a really great person to reach out to whenever you're interested in getting into research. Okay. So now back to the presentation. Next, moving on to extracurriculars. So one of the things that we like to say around the office is med schools and dental schools are looking for exciting people. And so they do want to know what your passions are, whether related to medicine or not. And one of the great ways to pursue whatever you're passionate about is to join one of the student orgs on campus or become involved in something in the local community. So UConn has over 600 student orgs on campus. The last I checked, there were at least 40 of them that were something healthcare related. So lots of great opportunities and ways to get involved. Before I show some sample healthcare related student orgs, I do want to throw a shout out to UConn Community Outreach as well, because this is the branch at UConn in charge of all service type opportunities. They offer both one-time opportunities as well as semester-long programs and alternative breaks during spring and fall vacation periods as well. And they do have a whole chunk of healthcare-related programs too, where you can even get some direct patient care experience. So I'm going to pull up their website now. And this is taken directly from their semester-long programs. So you can see right at the top here, their health services. And just to point out a couple, so the Collegiate Health Service Corps is a group that's really meaningful to a lot of students. They do work with some of the local populations and the underserved populations in the area, as well as provide health education outreach. The Mansfield Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation, as well as the Mansfield Senior Center, are actually very close to campus. You can actually walk there if you wanted to. And working at an elder care facility is not something that undergraduates often think of. However, it can provide you with really great skills and experience working with that specific population. Would say as well, this is the Wyndham Hospital Volunteer Services is a fairly typical volunteer program you might find at any large type hospital. It typically requires about 3 to 4 hours of service per week, and is another great opportunity a lot of our students get involved in. Wyndham is the next town over from Mansfield, where the UConn Stores campus is. The last thing that I really like about community outreach is that they provide you with the transportation. So for example, if you are not able to have a car on campus yet, if you're a freshman or sophomore, you don't even need to worry about that. You just hop in their shuttle and they take you to and from the site location. Okay, and last, I have included a link here of some ideas to do during the pandemic. This has been in our recent emails as well. This was a document gathered by health professions advisors throughout the country and has a lot of examples of ways to virtually volunteer at the moment as well. One of the ideas that a lot of, or actually some of our students have pursued this past summer are becoming some kind of a crisis hotline responder. Some of the programs I've seen, it typically requires about 30 hours and is just one way that you can stay involved, connect with people from your home. All right, so what is one way to, or what are some reasons why you might want to get involved in a student org on campus? Besides, them providing information to you, they often include experiential opportunities such as service days or even going on alternative breaks. And if you stick with them for a long time, it's a really great forum to cultivate some leadership, which is another great skill the professional schools are looking for. Lastly, you'll find other students with a lot of common interests. So these are some logos from some of the health-related organizations. And I'm going to highlight some of them now on both the Storrs campus and the regional campuses. So in Storrs, the three really big overarching organizations would definitely be the Pre-Med Society, the Pre-Dental Society, and the Pre-Physician Assistant Patient Care Alliance. And these are really great orgs to check out at the beginning, get on their emailing list. They often host guest speakers and other great ways to connect with professionals in the field. Some of the others are listed here. The Minority Association of Pre-Medical Students, known as MAPS, has some really exciting programming upcoming this fall, and we're hopefully going to be working with them for a couple opportunities as well. UConn Rescue is a group for current or aspiring EMTs on campus, and they also offer things like Stop the Bleed courses right on campus for other students and staff and faculty. MedLife, Global Brigades, these orgs take international service trips, which often include a clinical component. And if global health is one of your major interests, then do note that there is a Global Health Symposium organized on campus every spring semester. It's a really exciting forum. They've garnered some really exciting guest speakers in the past couple of years as well. Oh, and I would point out the picture in the upper right corner. This is a group called Knit for NICU, and it's one of my favorite groups because these 4 sophomores a couple of years ago came to us and said they wanted to combine their love for medicine, healthcare, with their love of crafts and knitting, and so they founded their own club called Knit for NICU. They knit things like beanies and blankets for premature babies and have partnerships with about 3 hospitals in the local area as well. So if there's a club that doesn't exactly appeal to you on campus, just note you could always create your own. I would like to highlight some of the either explicitly medicine-focused clubs, the regional campuses, as well as other clubs that we know have a lot of pre-health professional students in them. And so definitely check these out. You can see any of these organizations, by the way, on the UContact website. That is the major database listing all student orgs at all of the campuses. You can filter your search by type of club, as well as if it has an academic or more of a social component to it. And please check out the involvement fair that's happening in Storrs next week, or also most of them at the regional campuses next week too. We included information about that in an email that went out yesterday. Okay, my final note about just student orgs or extracurriculars in general would be quality over quantity really is important here. Dr. Sanford, would you like to say a couple words about that?
Sure. One common reaction when people sit around the admissions committee table at the professional schools, they really react badly if they think a student is taking the approach of just checking off the list of things that they feel are required. So, it'd be common to see somebody involved in a half dozen different clubs, and when you look into how much they participated and whether they really had any real strong interest in it, it really wasn't there. So as Kristen mentioned, it's important to explore, to sample some different things, but then to sort of center on maybe 2 or 3 areas that you really feel you want to make a contribution in and take some leadership role in. So it's, again, this judgment of, quality over quantity, and that, you certainly want to shop around, see what sort of programming the different clubs have, and pick ones that you feel like are most important to you, that you'd like to really make a contribution. Often this is the leadership that a student is able to develop while they're on the campus is related to the clubs that they belong and participate in. And that's what the schools value in the end. They want to see how much time and effort you've put into it, I want to see whether you've striven for leadership roles in these and the things that were important to you that you accomplished by virtue of your commitment to those things. So Krista mentioned the notion of a strong service orientation. So this is one of the ways that you show some dedication and you show some commitment. You show some initiative in terms of setting goals for an organization and cultivating relationships within the organization that will help you to achieve those goals. These end up being really important to you as a student. And when you reflect back on your experience as an undergraduate, it's very often the progress you've made as an organization participant or leader that allows that organization to grow and be successful and to give to the community. So it's not something to take lightly. One thing we do caution, if you're just coming in as a freshman, you can go to clubs all day long and not go to school at all and attend to your coursework because there's so many different clubs, available. So we ask you to be a little bit of a nerd, your first semester, at least till you get your feet on the ground, know the sort of work that you have to put in to really excel in your classes. So it's important to, explore and get around, but initially, just make sure you have your sort of ducks in a row, that you're putting the time and effort necessary into your coursework and that you're doing very well there. Chris, I think there was another appointment scheduled at 11:20 that I'm probably going to have to cut out of this for. So again, just would like to reiterate a couple of things I've said. One is to think about your overall goals for what you want to achieve as an undergraduate in terms of a lot of things, the coursework, the different disciplines you have an interest in, kinds of groups you want to connect with, kind of just your own personal development. Take a hard look at yourself and say, where do I really have to develop myself? And, then set a game plan in motion that will allow you to really work on those things. Cultivate some relationships with faculty, with clinicians. As in the end, you're going to be asking folks for reference letters, and they need to be in a position of having gotten to know you. So it is a little harder in a larger university setting to establish relationships like this, but it is really important to try to do. Most of these come from faculty and others that you meet as you move along. It's a little harder to do that in, say, the first or second year. But again, it's just sort of a mindset that we'd like to have you think about as you enter and progress. It's really important to establish some of those relationships. The other thing I would just highlight is it's a good idea to look at different areas of healthcare. A good resource for this is the national or regional advisors web pages that give a very nice description of the different healthcare professions. They talk about what's sort of unique about each, what sorts of folks go into different areas, and what sort of things you get stressed as part of that training and that career. So it's just a good idea to expand your look at that, and then plan some experiences to evaluate them against one another to see which represents the best fit for you. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and leave the session, if that's okay. Krista, again, a welcome to everybody and look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stanford. We are in the home stretch as well. Oh, I think you're muted again.
So thanks, everybody. Please be safe and be well. Look forward to seeing all of you.
All right, we have just a few more slides to cover now. And so our last aspect of the holistic admissions nature of health professional schools has to do with something called the core competencies. Now, you might have heard the term at some point in your life like soft skills or transferable skills. And essentially, the health professional schools have their own version of this list. So we talk about the AAMC's 15 core competencies. I do have links for them here as well as real stories demonstrating them. So you can check these out later, but they are roughly grouped into these four overarching areas. And here's a list of 15 of them right here. If you go on the website though, or just Google AAMC 15 core competencies, you can see the list in much greater detail with descriptions. And so they're essentially the skills, the personal attributes, the types of knowledge that health professional schools value in their students and in successful practitioners in the field. So just to highlight a few of them, service orientation is the one you see at the top here. This is incredibly important for both medical and dental schools. Dr. Abbott talks about this all the time. And essentially, the schools want to see that you're a giving person going into a giving profession, that your motivation is in the right place. And so they do want to see you have a strong service record in some form. This could be service work you've obtained in some kind of a clinical setting, again, overlapping with that medically related experience, or it could be unrelated to medicine and is something else you do in the community or at home, for example. Other ones we'd like to highlight, cultural competence. This is incredibly important, and essentially demonstrating to the schools that you're comfortable working with a diverse population of patients at any time, any place, and you're going to be sensitive to their different needs. Teamwork is another huge one, often stressed at admission committees. So the schools want to know or see evidence in your activities or coursework that you're comfortable working as part of a team, because as a healthcare practitioner, you are going to be working with other healthcare professionals and you each have your own role to play and you depend on each other. One that I've been talking about with students a lot this summer particularly is resilience and adaptability. Not only in terms of the disruption of in-person classes moving to online class formats, but things such as standardized testing date interruptions. And this is another way, if you maybe have a bit of a rough start to your undergraduate career, if you are able to identify strategies and seek out resources and get on track, have a really upward trajectory, the schools refer to this as the distance traveled, because they really are more interested in where you started, where you ended up, in your journey along the way. So we encourage you always to be reflecting on these areas. We like to bring them up nice and early as well, because you will actually rank yourself in these categories when it's time for the composite letter, just so that we have a sense of what you feel your biggest strengths to be. Now, lastly, these are the last couple slides now. This is a sample timeline, and there's going to be some official timelines you can refer to in a moment as well. But if you are an incoming freshman tuning in, then just be advised, we like to say it's best to be a little bit of a nerd your first year, first semester. Make sure you are settling into college, really focus on your courses and adjusting to a college course load. And also outside of the classroom, really explore some different opportunities to get involved. So again, check out that involvement fair next week, or continue doing things that are meaningful to you if you're at home. You don't necessarily have to really commit to anything right away, but really investigate what your own interests are. And again, the schools want to see that you have passions of some kind. It's equally important to pursue non-medically related things if that's where your passions lie. So if, a cappella singing or club soccer or a cultural organization, if that's very meaningful to you, absolutely invest your time and dedication to that. The summer after your freshman year is a great time to begin cultivating some clinical experience if you haven't already. Theoretically, that's when a lot of students have more time on their hands outside of the semester, and or become involved in research if you have that opportunity. Your sophomore year it's also important to focus on your coursework. Most sophomores would be diving into things like organic chemistry, or maybe beginning some upper division biology courses. So keep moving along with those. And then this would be a really great time to hone in on those few extracurriculars that you do want to commit yourself to on a regular basis moving forward over an extended time. Summer after sophomore year, another great time to be working on those clinicals or research or volunteer. And maybe focus on something you weren't able to get to your first summer just to make sure you're cultivating the different areas. Junior year is when a lot of students will start focusing on the applications themselves. Now, I will mention that if you are hoping to begin medical or dental school right after you graduate, please note that the health professional school applications will actually take place the summer after your junior year. So that may seem very far in advance compared to undergraduate admissions, but that's what it is. So for example, our applicants who are applying this summer of 2020, that would be to begin medical or dental school in the fall of 2021. And so you would want to have all that prerequisite coursework and all the relevant experiences really done by then, because schools want to see grades for them. And you would be taking your standardized test, either the MCAT or the DAT, at some point in the spring or early summer. We don't like to focus on the test too much right now. We do focus on those at our annual application orientation. But most students do take them a little bit after the semester ends, because that gives them a little bit of a buffer when you don't have to worry about your finals or GPA, and you can just focus on the test themselves. So again, the summer after junior year then, if it is your timeline to apply, you would be applying, taking the tests. If not, this would, of course, just be pushed off a year, and you would be applying essentially right after you graduate, or even a longer time after that. Your fourth year would be waiting to hear back from schools about interviews, and then submitting any other relevant documents to the school, such as grade updates or completing secondaries, to begin professional school. I have links here, which you'll be able to access on our website afterwards, for some of the more important guides from the AAMC and ADEA. And so you can check out official timelines from them as well, just to check in and see you're on track. But really be aware that the average age of applicants to medical and dental school is actually going up. More and more students are electing to take a little extra time before applying to them, and using that extra time to cultivate those different areas they might not have gotten to address as a full-time undergraduate student. So there is no right or wrong here. Again, our office also works with alumni, so you're always welcome to reach back out to us for both general advising and to kick off that composite letter process. Also, since I believe we have many incoming freshmen joining us today, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the great UConn resources. So there is a Q Center and a W Center, which provides academic tutoring for free for different quantitative-based courses as well as writing intensive courses. And the Center for Career Development offers all kinds of resources, including everything from walk-in resume critiques to 45-minute mock interviews. And we work with them very closely, actually, for our healthcare interviewing webinars, and we've created a custom set of questions with them too for Health Professional School. The Academic Achievement Center is a great resource as well if, for example, you find yourself partway through this first semester just struggling to adjust, and you want to talk over with a tutor some things such as test-taking strategies or time management, and they can be great mentors there. All right, so thank you so much for tuning in today. Unfortunately, we are out of time now, but if you have any more general type questions, feel free to email us at premed_predental@uconn.edu, and or set up a one-on-one appointment now that you viewed this presentation using one of the forms on our website, and we're happy to talk to you about your more individualized concerns and questions. This recording will also be posted to our website, and we'll send out an email with information about that too. So thank you, everyone, and please rest up. I hope you are gearing up for the first day of the semester in just a few days. Take care.